Welcome to JSA TV and JSA Podcasts, the newsroom for telecom and data center professionals. I'm Jean-Marc Schliemann. Joining me today is London-based Ross Smyth, Associate at VIPA Digital. And Ross, welcome to JSA TV. Thank you so much for talking to me. You are basically the next generation. You've been in the industry for a very brief period of time, but a lot has happened since you joined. Let's put it that way as well. It's not just jumping into something new, but you've witnessed tremendous change in our space in the last year. Before we get into that, tell us about you and your journey. Where did you come from and how you got into the industry?
Yeah, of course. And firstly, thank you for having me, Joe. It's great to be joining you. So, yeah, initially, I'm from near Belfast in Northern Ireland. Not many people even know Northern Ireland exists. So, to move over to London, it was quite a big step. So, a bit in the backstory of how I ended up here. My girlfriend had got a job in London for after she had graduated university. So I didn't have much say in the matter. It was up to me to to find a job and move over whenever she was moving. So I was looking around, not really finding anything that was, that interesting to me. My background is electrical and electronic engineering, and I
Oh, wow.
previously worked in software firmware development for a tech company in Belfast. So to me, I was like, I don't really know if I want to sit and code for the rest of my life. I don't know if that's where I see myself. So yeah, I saw the ad for VIPA come up. It seemed a bit more, social, a bit more access to different avenues and expanding my skill set. So I thought I threw my hat in the ring, and yeah, a couple of months later, I'd moved to London, and I was head first in the data center industry.
Well, and I guess it's gone positively. It's been a good experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I I wouldn't still be here if it wasn't, that's for sure.
Well, it's good to know. Well, good point. It's good to know that the new industry is still coming into it by chance. Because I guess I'll probably say like 99.9999% of the people have just landed in the sector. The people didn't even know it existed beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely.
um,
I never really heard of people working in the data center industry before. I obviously knew what they were through my degree. But yeah, it was a shock that when I ended up here myself.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was when I started. I can tell you that. I didn't even understand what the cloud was. I thought it was an actual cloud, as most people did. Um, but I mean, what's so? Like I said in the introduction as well, you've witnessed tremendous change. Even though it's been a short space of time,
Mhm.
the change has been tremendous in the months that you've worked in the sector. What's been the biggest shock or surprise to you coming into it with a fresh perspective?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for me, just the unprecedented growth that has been seen in the industry. Whenever I first joined, it was just literally post pandemic of COVID. So
So
things were
you
still
joined what month? What year?
uh,
Sorry.
September. So I think whenever I was in Northern Ireland, we were still in lockdowns over that summer.
September 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, yeah, right bang on in the middle.
Or was it 2021 actually? I think it was 21. Time
Yeah.
time
Oh,
moves
yeah,
like
yeah.
a
Well,
merry-go-round.
about a year ago, yeah.
A year ago. So
So much has happened. It looks like it's been 2 years.
I know it literally feels like 2 years, but yeah, just the unprecedented growth that we've seen in the industry, even since I joined, because obviously there were still lingerings of COVID about. So it was kind of expected that, the industry was still going forward. But then there was talk of, is this a bubble? When's it going to burst? What are your opinions on this? We kept getting asked. And it was really hard to tell at that stage. And, now we're seeing, I don't think there's been any slowdown at all in the growth of the industry at all. So yeah, I think that was probably the biggest shock is like, wow, this industry is just untouchable right now in terms of growth compared to literally everything else.
Yeah. And luckily the bubble never came to be, at least not yet. But
Not yet.
it doesn't, you probably you know it better than I do. And I don't think there will be that much of a bubble. Maybe a slowdown slightly in the next few months, but not so much of a bubble.
Mhm.
Talk us through, but I want to talk about the market with you. But before we get there, I think it's fascinating to learn more about your day-to-day, what you do on a day-to-day basis. Talk us through your day, because you were from home, but you also come to London. You're based in London. You go out in London, so you have a lot of meetings. So walk us through your normal day.
Mhm. So yeah, I'll tell you a bit about VIPA Digital, who VIPA Digital are, and then what I do in my day-to-day work. So we're a DC consultancy and advisory firm. So we help out operators and investors to navigate the data center industry. So most of our services are centered around, data center strategy and transformation, investment advisory, power consultancy, which is a big one at the minute, and then project management, and much more with our skill set that we have. So I myself work as part of the technical team. So in my day-to-day, depending on what projects that we're currently working on, I could be doing technical due diligence, power studies, connectivity studies. But the one great thing about VIPA Digital and this industry as a whole is like you're never pigeonholed in what you do. So I've also had the pleasure of leading a few projects which have nothing to do with technical stuff. So looking at business cases and more commercial sort of work. So being loan technical advisor and other things like that. So yeah, my day can be pretty varied between the different roles which I find myself in. And yeah, we're mostly a work from home business, although we're looking at getting an office currently. So that's exciting with the growth that we're seeing within the company as well. So I think I was the 6th or 7th person to join VIPA Digital, and we're not growing. We've hired two new younger people than me even. So it's
You're starting to feel old.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel pretty old now.
Oh, no, that's so much. I think what you said is literally one of the greatest things about this sector is that there's so much happening. You don't have to, I mean, of course, you have to focus on what you're doing, which is very important, but you can spread out into other areas and really diversify your role, your job, which makes it all more exciting because every day kind of is different. There's always something new happening. And it's great to hear about the company expansion. I think there's also a mirror of what's happening in the market. There's just so much demand, so much hungriness for more information, for more data. And due diligence. And I mean, we know a lot of deals that are going under the table at the moment. So I'm sure you guys are very, very busy. Picking up on all that you do. So what would you say that's something which is really exciting right now about the market? What's your near-term kind of predictions of where things are going?
So at VIPA, we're seeing a lot of traffic in the power consultancy line of work. As you know, there's quite a lot of power constraints, especially in Europe at the minute with the conflict that's been going on. So what that is creating is an inflation in terms of the cost of energy right now. So the access to the capacities which were once available in those 100 MVA plus regions are starting to become a bit more scarce. And you're probably seeing a lot from the hyperscalers in terms of their operational expenditure is just crazy. I mean, I think it was Microsoft were quoting that they're $800 million over on their energy costs, which is just ridiculous. So it'll be interesting to see how companies and governments react to the current power market and energy market in general, to see how we combat this issue. Maybe near term we could see a bit of slowing growth, especially from the larger operators like the Meta, Google, Amazons, AWSs of the world. But then, so looking beyond that, I think we'll continue to see the growth that we have been seeing in the EU markets, the flat D sort of markets. And then, what we've also been seeing is a lot more interest in tier 2 markets. So your Switzerland, Italy, Nordics, and I think Spain is the best example. The amount of hyperscale activity in Spain and operators trying to get into the Spanish market, especially Madrid, Barcelona, with their abundance of power and connectivity and land as well, a big one. I think we'll continue to see that. So I think Spain could become a bit more of a powerhouse in Europe compared to maybe the Amsterdams and Paris sort of regions. And then of course we can talk about growth without talking about the Nordics and their ability to maintain their cheap, sustainable energy. And I'll not go into ESG in this conversation because I feel like that's talked about too much currently.
I mean, feel free to talk about ESG. It's almost a whole new conversation that we can have around that. But Spain is interesting indeed if they manage to sort out their power as well in the next 5 years. But I think what you said is kind of in line with what we are seeing and expecting over the next few months, a bit of a slowdown, and maybe more of a readjustment of how things are done and how they're funded. as opposed to the bubble bursting, as we were talking at the beginning. If you had to choose one market, what's your favorite market that you've been working with?
Good question. I would find it hard not to say the London market, purely because it's,
Okay, well, if you can't vote for your own country.
yeah. I think it's just that I like the feeling of seeing the impact that my work has on the market firsthand. You step out your door, get in the tube, you can go and see a data center site that you've for example, done a technical due diligence on. You can say to your family, I've worked on that. I think that just kind of makes me feel don't want to sound self-centered, but it makes me feel special when I can say, look at what I've done.
This nice, and they look at you. Yeah, it's a building.
Yeah. Usually not that
Like
nice
most,
buildings either.
yeah, like most people do.
Yeah. But one other thing about the London market as well, I love, is the fact that despite the constraints on land and power availability in a lot of areas, there's just continued growth and interest in this region. I think London is expected to see like the greatest new supply added, and the greatest demand seen in 2022 versus all other FLAP-D markets. So it's quite cool to see.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point that you raise, actually, because we have talked about power struggles in the UK, especially London in this case, the land problem as well, and even just populations not really wanting data centers. But then we still see huge projects being announced in and out of the M25, so Slough especially. You had this 600 megawatt project coming to light in the last few weeks as well. It is very interesting. It's still the second or the third largest data center market in the world. And it's a global capital. It's an alpha city, so it's going to be very hard for it to come down, as some doom and gloom predicts sometimes.
Exactly.
But I was going to ask you, how can people reach out to you and find out more about VIPA? If anyone needs due diligence, how did they get that?
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, Ross Smyth, Smith with a Y, which always catches people out. And then, yeah, just to plug VIPA Digital. So on LinkedIn, VIPA Digital with a space in between, and our website is vipadigital.com.
Okay. And Ross, if you had to describe your first month in the sector, what word would you use? In one word, sorry.
Hectic.
I think that's a very good word. It does mirror what's happening. Ross Smyth, Associate of VIPA Digital, thank you so much for talking to me. And thank you to our viewers for tuning into JSA TV and JSA Podcasts. And don't forget to check our social channels for more content. Until next time, happy networking.